For those of you who don't know, so Starling Bank is a mobile-only bank. We were built from scratch, and we have our full banking license, and we really focus on the user experience. We started with this idea that until now, people haven't seen the same types of innovation from banks that they've benefited from everywhere else in their lives. So what we saw with banks is that they were reasonably good at keeping up with technological change until 2008. And then there was the financial crisis. And with that came lots of new rules and regulation, lots of new fines being imposed. And so innovation just dropped to the bottom of the priority list. And yet, at that same time in 2008, we saw some of the most transformative pieces of innovation coming to market. So the iPhone launched, and then Uber and WhatsApp and Airbnb. And so this gap started to emerge between what the banks were offering and what consumers were starting to expect, particularly in terms of user experience, how intuitive and simple and real-time products and services could be. And so we formed Starling with this idea of bringing that into banking. And we operated really around these three core principles in doing so to really differentiate our products. So the first thing we did is we decided to build the back-end technology. We wanted to build a full stack bank. There's a few of us in this space now called challenger banks, and many of them see the back-end technology as a commodity. On the other hand, we saw it as a huge differentiator. This is the way where we could really innovate on the core of banking, and if we had a great idea, say a great new algorithm for detecting fraud, we could turn to our engineers and build that in a matter of weeks or months rather than the months or years it could take if you're dependent on someone else's infrastructure, like Wirecard or Bancorp. And so we set out to build the bank from scratch. The second piece was around getting the full banking license. So since the financial crisis, in the UK, the regulator has enabled new tech companies to get a banking license. So the capital requirements are still quite high, but what it enables us to do is it enables us to get this full banking license and compete with banks on an equal playing field. So on the one hand, that gives us the ability to accept customer deposits, which is key, because then you can accept the deposits, lend them out, and make revenue on that net interest margin. So you have that as a revenue stream as well as the interchange, similar to Pedal if you heard them talking earlier. But then you also get unique abilities. So as a fully licensed bank, you can also directly plug into payment schemes, so faster payments and backs. So as we were building it out, we directly connected into these payment schemes, and then we also were building a full set of open APIs, some of which are around the connections to those payment services, which has given rise to another part of the bank called the Payment Services Division, which is how we enable other banks, other companies, other third parties to access payment schemes through our infrastructure. And then it also gives you the ability to ensure customer deposits. So in the form of customer trust, we have the ability to tell our customers that we are a fully licensed bank, we ensure their customer deposits up to £85,000, and we can be trusted just as securely as any of the other banks in the UK. And then finally, the main thing we really wanted to focus on was the user experience. So if you talk to a product manager at a bank, typically they'll talk to you about interest rates. And while that's interesting, if you talk to a product manager at a consumer technology company, they'll talk to you about, how do you understand your users' journeys? How do you understand their pain points and solve those in delightful ways? And so we wanted to turn that lens to banking. And so what that looked like for us, for example, was just setting up a bank account. So currently in the UK, if you were to set up a bank account, one of the traditional providers, you'd have to make an appointment at a branch location, go in with lots of documents. It would take weeks to do. Whereas on Starling, you can set up a bank account in less than 3 minutes, all from your phone. You take a picture of your passport, you enter in a couple pieces of information, and take a short video of yourself, and you're done. That's it. And we recently launched our business accounts as well for SMEs, and it's similar. It takes still less than 10 minutes to do, all from your mobile phone. So really looking at how do we make banking that same kind of intuitive and easy to access and easy to use as you would expect from a consumer technology company. For those of you who haven't seen it before, this is what it looks like. So on the far side, what you see there is what's called the pulse. So every time you open your app, this is the home screen that you land on. It gives you an overview of your daily spend. The next is the transaction or the insights feed. So what you're seeing there is the merchant. So you can see your spend from Uber, Pret, TfL, so on and so forth. And if you were to toggle to the other category, you can see it says categories there. That would show you how much you spend on entertainment versus gifts versus payments and so on. The middle screen is what we call the card control screen. So this is where you could see where on the lower right-hand side or left-hand side you see the lock button. So say you're out and you lose your card. You're not sure if you left it at the bar or if it's in your house or in your coat pocket, but you don't know where it is. You can tap that button, it instantly freezes your card. If someone tried to pay on it, it would be declined. The moment you untap it, it works again. So giving that kind of instant and real-time control of your card. The next is the overdraft screen. So in the UK, there's a facility where you can take out, it's effectively a small line of credit. You only pay for it as you use it. For our customers, we let them toggle that in real time for the amount they want. If they don't want any overdraft, they could basically shut it off, or they could toggle it to enable more access at any given time. And finally, the last screen is what we call goals. It's our savings goals. That's the way we let our customers parse out money from their checking account or current account into these savings goals, where they can add pictures and their own information for what they want to set their money aside for. While we don't offer a savings account, we just offer a flat 0.5% interest on deposits, and that would be the same for anything within goals as well. So this is our timeline for what it took for us to build a bank from scratch. So started in 2014. The main thing that really took up the bulk of our time between 2014 and 2016 was really the regulatory side of it. So building the bank, but also getting the license. So putting forth the application, getting everything that we needed to do in order to do that successfully, and raising the funds. So as a fully licensed bank, you have to have capital to ensure your customer deposits. So for us, we raised $70 million in our first round of funding, which we got in January of 2016, which is what enabled us to get our banking license with restrictions that summer in July. When you first get your banking license in the UK, you have to operate under restrictions for the first 6 months. This is for the purpose of the regulator going through with you and testing out your systems, ensuring you're meeting the integrity and security standards of the rest of the ecosystem before lifting those restrictions and enabling you to have a public offering. So for us, what that meant is we could have a maximum of £50,000 in customer deposits during that first 6 months. So for us, that's when we first started testing our MasterCard debit card. We started testing faster payments and the consumer account. As you can see, in January 2017, that's when we became the 13th member to directly connect to faster payments. And then really it was that spring when we launched our beta program and then launched our set of open APIs. In the UK and in Europe, there's 2 pieces of legislation that are really key right now. So one is open banking and another is PSD2. I won't belabor that too much, but it's basically around how banks are being mandated to open up these APIs to enable their customers to securely share their data with third parties and fintechs, should they choose to do so. So for us, one of the things that we wanted to do was really to be a thought leader in that space. So we launched our full set of open APIs in April of last year. We kicked it off with a hackathon. To those who came to the hackathon, we gave them an early Starling account to do so, and really started kicking off this kind of ecosystem of developers that we work with to enable third parties to access our APIs. And then in May, we publicly launched. And then really throughout the next few months of that year, we were looking at developing further features. So in terms of the digital wallets, as well as spending insights, savings goals, and then the MVP for our marketplace, which we've been working on since then. The marketplace and our payment services division. So payment services is how we enable those other banks and third parties to access payment schemes through our API, as well as the marketplace, which is how we enable other third parties to plug into Starling. Both required what's called a variation of permission on our license. It took us about 7 months to get those 2 additional pieces of permission after we got our full banking license. And what that enables us to do is to monetize those different parts of our business as well. And so we got that in December of 2017, and so properly launched those this year. But it's a fundamentally different way of banking. So it's for a mobile-only generation. There's no branch locations. You can open an account in minutes from your phone. We have contactless cards and digital wallets, easy ways to control, manage, and spend your money, and more importantly, leaner business models. So oftentimes when I give this presentation, people ask, how do you make money? So you have a free account, and you're operating as a bank, but really how are you driving revenue in a sustainable way? So for us, the thing that makes us quite competitive against traditional banks is that our cost basis is entirely different. So we built a bank from scratch, which means that, one, our technology is much lower cost to run. We don't use on-prem, we only use cloud hosting, so it's also another cost differential. But then we also have the same ways of generating revenue as banks in terms of accepting deposits and lending them out. And then we have the payment services division, which is how we charge other banks and other third parties to access payment schemes through our infrastructure. And then the marketplace. For the marketplace, whenever we have a partner that has a new Starling customer introduced to them, they would pay us an affiliate fee or revenue fee or referral fee for doing so. So we have these 3 different revenue streams that we have, and yet a very low cost base in order to sustain that as well. So with that, I'll end here, but I'll be around after and happy to take any questions you might have. Thank you.